live video stream every morning at 560theanswer.com.
Listen to podcasts of Joe Walsh and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Apple CEO Tim Cook sat down with the newly minted CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell. Are you a monopoly? Should you be broken up like Chief Warren says so? Boy, man, I really loathe being put in a position to defend the Tim Cooks of the world and the Apples of the world. But nonetheless, yes. Tim Cook responds.
The government is looking into big tech, essentially whether companies like Facebook, Google, and Apple are too big. Is Apple too big?
No, I don't think so. I think that with size, I think scrutiny is fair. I think we should be scrutinized. But if you look at our any kind of measure about is Apple a monopoly or not, I don't think anybody reasonable is going to come to the conclusion that Apple's a monopoly. Our share is much more modest. We don't have a dominant position in any market. You know, our share of smartphones in the U.S. is typically in the high 30s or so, mid 30s. On PCs, it's lower than that, and so on and so forth. And so
you're saying you're not a monopoly?
We are not a monopoly.
But Elizabeth Warren, who's campaigning for president, says Apple should break up its App Store and the other parts of its business.
Well, I strongly disagree with that. I think some people would argue if you are selling a good, then you can't have a product that competes with that good. And I think that's part of what is being argued there. But that's an argument, Nora, that takes you down the path that Walmart shouldn't be stocking a alternative or house brand. And so this is decades of U.S. law here. But I think scrutiny is good. And we'll tell our story to anybody that we need to or that wants to hear it.
He's certainly right on the substance, and his example of Walmart, the example he's using for comparison, Walmart couldn't produce a house brand and sell it per Chief Warren's idiotic anti-growth, anti-capitalist, anti-free market argument is exactly right. But I got to tell you, I know they're fictional characters, but are there any Howard Rourkes or Hank Reardons in this country? I mean, I know Tim Cook is a cultural Marxist. I know he's a dink. I know he's a weasel, and it's all smarm all the time. We invite the regulation the same way Mark Zuckerberg does. We invite the regulation. Does anybody in this country have the stones to tell Chief Warren and the House Judiciary Committee and even the Department of Justice under this president to go pound sand? There's no such thing as a monopoly that occurs without government sanction. So Apple's not a monopoly, Facebook's not a monopoly, Twitter's not a monopoly, Netflix is a monopoly, Microsoft wasn't a monopoly and still isn't, IBM wasn't a monopoly and still isn't. Anybody make the principled argument rather than just covering their backside with platitudes and welcoming posture towards the barbarians in political office, the grifters and the plunderers? I mean, does anybody speak with moral clarity? You're Tim Cook. You're the CEO of the most profitable company in the world, bigger than some countries, at least in terms of their GDP. And you can't stick it to Jerry Nadler. You can't provide a teachable moment to the country and all these, hipster doofus Apple users out there who love what capitalism produces but hate capitalism in theory. So frustrating. All right, well, that was cathartic.
Are you okay there, Chief?
No, I'm not. That's why we're going to have Steve Moore on to continue my rant. Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics Inside the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. But boy, you're right on the Atlas Shrugged this morning. I love it. And I agree with everything you said. Look, I hate antitrust. The only monopolies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to worry about are the Chicago public school system, the Chicago Chicago Public Transit Authority, the monopolies that are created by government. By the way, if we have Medicare for all, we'll have a monopoly in health care. So where are the liberals, talking about and in those cases, no one can take on the monopoly because they are, as you said, government sanctioned. I love the fact that 5 of the, top 7 companies in the world are American companies. They're dominant. They make profits. They hire people. They give us things that we want. Now, by the way, I hate Facebook. I don't even have a Facebook. I don't know. Do you guys have Facebook accounts? You probably have to.
I do.
You're
I,
such celebrities.
I rarely use
Yeah,
mine.
yeah, celebrities.
Yeah, but nobody ever put a gun to your head and said you have to use Facebook. I mean, it's ridiculous to say they're a monopoly. If you don't like Facebook, don't use it. If you don't like Apple, don't buy an Apple computer. If you don't like Amazon, don't use their service. People use their service. Why? Because we voluntarily like what they provide, and they provide us more than it costs us to buy the stuff. I mean, and what do we want? All the biggest companies and the most successful companies to be in China and Japan and Germany? No, I'm proud of the fact those companies are made in America, that they've paid huge amounts of money to the shareholders, to the workers. I mean, why do you want to kick down somebody that's successful? Yeah, I'm on a little bit of a rant here, but one other thing. Is there any area in the world where there's more competition than in technology? Come on, today Google's at the top of the world. 5 or 6 years ago, they'll probably be near the bottom of the heap. It's really difficult to stay at the top.
I think I'm going to know the answer before I even ask the question, but these Mexican tariffs that President Trump is imposing, 5% now, by next October it'll be 25%. You've got to separate border security issues from tariffs and trading policies, don't you think?
Yeah, you're
Is this
right. You're
really
exactly
the way
right
to
about
do
that.
this, Mr. Moore? Answer the question.
Amy, you're exactly right. Look, if you want more, and by the way, Mexico is being, cooperative on the border, and the fact is that most of the people who are coming into the United States, by the way, illegally, are not Mexicans. They're from Central American countries, and they're all from those socialist countries like Venezuela that are coming in the United States. But no, this is a really bad strategy. I hate the idea of using a tariff against our allies. Number one, I don't want every time we have a little, fight with one of our allies, we're going to impose tariffs on them. No, I don't like weaponizing terrorists. Number two, now is the time we want to unify the rest of the world against China. And, Dan and you and I have had this spirited debate in the last, 6 months about whether these China tariffs make sense. I'm with Trump on this, but if you're going to do it, you want to make sure that they're aimed at the bad actor, that's China, and you don't make enemies out of your allies like China, like Canada, like Mexico, like Europeans, and Japan and Britain. I love the idea, by the way, of let's get that Great Britain United States trade deal done. Mm-hmm. Let's have total free trade with the Brits.
Yeah, I agree. And as soon as they can figure their way out of the EU, that would be great. And I'm going to take agreement.
They won't let them out.
Yeah, I know.
There's the monopoly. They won't let them leave.
I'm going to take agreement with your position on Mexican tariffs and move on. Where are Republicans? You mentioned it at the outset. Monopoly, Medicare for all. That would be a monopoly. Where are Republicans with a response to Medicare for all?
By the way, can I just say one quick thing?
Yes.
Most of those plans would make private competitive plans. If you have Medicare for all,
gone.
They make private competitors illegal. So they charter a monopoly with Medicare for all. By the way, same thing with the public school system. I mean, if you tried to, or you would try to put a little train service in Chicago, they'll run you right out of business. You can't possibly compete with the L. Come on.
Well, that's right. And oh, by the way, Comrade Bernie, the Bolshevik, is proposing to take out charter schools nationally, to do what he can at the national level to take our charter schools.
Get rid of the charter schools. Get rid of choice.
That's right.
The government's going to put you. By the way, I know we're running out of time. Have you guys seen Chernobyl?
Yes,
we're watching
it.
Yes.
Did you watch the
Oh, my God.
I watched the final episode.
I want every school child in
has
America
to
to see that.
Yep.
Every school child in America to see what communism, socialism, Bernie Sandersism does to people, how their absolute disregard for human life.
You know what is weird though? There are no reporters ever. Even when the accident happened, days following, it felt
There's no media.
Not until the trial.
No media.
Well, not until the trial.
Yeah.
I know, because it's a communist country. But I'm just saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so one of the things, in addition to watching Chernobyl and the ravages of communism and central planning, what would help is making arguments against it in this country. So Medicare for all, Republicans on the Hill, their posture seems to be don't address it, number one. Number two, where are they as the little sisters of the poor? Can anybody muster up the courage to rally for little sisters of the poor? They're back in court. I mean, honestly, they're back in court.
No, because they don't make big campaign contributions.
Well,
I mean, big lobbyists.
Okay, all right. I mean, just so people know, little sisters of the poor who won a Supreme Court decision back in court in California at the hands of the Attorney General Xavier Becerra there, appealing the federal government's exemption for Little Sisters of the Poor, trying to impose on Little Sisters of the Poor Obamacare mandates that are inconsistent with Catholic faith.
It's really pathetic. I mean, these people, they're total command and control, and everybody's going to get in the same boat, and there's no exemptions, and this is the kind of steel-booted approach of big government. That's why, we started this talking about big business, and no, look, if it's big business versus big government, I'm going to side with big business every time.
He is Steve Moore. He is Wall Street Journal columnist. Pick up the book, Trumponomics, Inside America's the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning